Good afternoon. And thank you for coming instead of taking your afternoon nap. I appreciate it. This is my last lecture, and I've enjoyed being with you so much during this part of the cruise. And I really do appreciate your attendance and all your enthusiasm. Thank you so much. For my last lecture, I wanted to talk about nature and about the natural environment of the Pacific. I think that you must realize, having been here, how fragile this environment is and how important it is to think about the future of this very immense and very important region of the world. The welfare of the people of the Pacific region is important for everyone in the world, for our economy, for our climate, for our nature. And I wanted to try to give you a perspective on the natural environment from the viewpoint of the people who have always lived in this region. So this perspective is an internal cultural perspective of the natural environment and human beings' relationship to the natural environment. And you notice that I've titled this, Mālama, Āina. Mālama, Āina means basically save the land, rescue the land. An Āina is the Hawaiian term for land, but it means more than just a piece of property or a piece of territory. This is homeland, this is fatherland, motherland. This is a land in which everyone lives and is dependent upon for their welfare. It has deep spiritual meaning. It's not just a piece of territory. And the spirit of Mālama Āina is alive and well in Hawaii, and it has resonance in French Polynesia, in Samoa, in Fiji, in Tonga, and throughout the entire, and in Micronesia, throughout the entire Pacific region. Because not only historically has this been an extremely important concept of the integration of human beings with the land and with nature, but it also increasingly in the 21st century has become a point that requires defense on the part of the people who are living in this area, because they see that their welfare and their lives and the environment is truly in danger as we are going forward in the future. The Āina in Hawaii, which also has important spiritual connotations, has been treated badly throughout the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries, and now we're getting down to the 21st century, and we see people trying very, very hard to reverse some of the negative effects that have taken place in the past through colonial occupation, through exploitation of natural resources, and through developments such as plantation agriculture. And I'll go through some of these things that have now been seen as having negative effects on the people and on the land in this region, and how people are trying to reverse those negative effects and create a better integration with the land, with the spiritual and its spiritual values. So, to care for the land, to save the land, is what Mālama Āina means. And there is a connection between ecological balance and human well-being. And it is not just lip service, nor is it a matter of kind of intellectual elite operation. This is a consciousness that is very, very widely shared throughout the entire region, and it is a part of tradition as well. So, there are reflections of Mālama Āina in French Polynesia as well. Ma'a Tahiti, the Tahitian way, living in balance with the world. Ra'ui, which is which means really prohibition, but it has a positive context to it. So the traditional prohibition, tabu, kapu in Hawaiian, means the protection of resources by preventing human beings from exploiting or trespassing or disturbing these natural resources. So, aita pea pea, the purity of the land, is found in Tahitian, in French Polynesia, means environmental purity and health. And again, this is a concept that's very widely spread. You see it on signs, you see it certainly in instruction in the schools, and it is a very widespread ethic within these communities. And the most important concept, and if you take away nothing else from this lecture, I'd like you to contemplate the idea of stewardship kinship. Stewardship kinship. This means that the land is actually part of one's family. It is kin. It is an integral part of one's life. So the land is an ancestor, the land itself, and all the nature that occurs in the land. People are kin with the land and with the ocean and with all of the descendants in the primal cosmology. So the environment in which one lives is directly related in a familial fashion to the people that are there. And so this makes it much easier to think about caring for the land and caring for the environment as part of this basic kinship, integrated kinship that people have with the land. I personally find this an extraordinarily admirable way of thinking, and it's heartening to see a part of the world where this ethic is so incredibly widespread, because it really does extend to all of the island communities within the Pacific region. Hawaii is an important touchstone for this way of thinking, but as I say, it is shared throughout the region, and it has clearly very, very ancient roots. This is not something that was concocted, last week or in the last few years. This is a very ancient tradition and one that is very deeply felt. So I did not prepare a full lecture on Hawaiian deities, and the reason was because I got some feedback before I even got on the boat from people that said, we've heard a lot about Hawaiian gods. We had the Hawaiian ambassadors who were here on board, I think, for a while. I know them. They're wonderful people, and I hope that they gave you also some basic information about Hawaiian deities. But what is important for us to understand, and where I'll introduce them now, or a few of them anyway, that these traditional Hawaiian deities, the ones that precede Christianity and other religions that have found their way into the Pacific region, is that these deities are all integral in terms of their relationship to nature. Each of them has a specific role within the natural environment. And in ancient times, the propitiation and the ceremonies that involved these deities were also a way of talking about people's responsibility and relationship to the land and to the environment. So, Lono, the god of agriculture and fertility. And Lono in Tahitian and Marquesan is Rongo or Ro'o. It's a cognate, so that it really is the same deity. Now, if you remember from my lecture yesterday talking about Captain Cook, that during the Maihiki festival, which, by the way, is right now, in Hawaii, a festival that celebrates fertility, that celebrates the natural environment. Captain Cook was thought to have been an incarnation of the god Lono, and that got him in trouble when it was found out that he was quite mortal and not at all a deity. Nevertheless, Lono is one of the principal deities throughout the region, or Rongo or Ro'o, and in French Polynesia, Lono is in fact the principal deity. He is quite it's quite interesting. I'll talk about this in just a second, but there is what we call a theological flip that seems to have taken place between Tahiti and the Marquesas and Hawaii, because in the original, in the Marquesas and in Tahiti, Lono is the principal deity. Kanaloa, the god of the ocean, and the Tahitian word is Ta'aroa, and Kanaloa is that has that relationship. Now, what is interesting about this is that Lono is not only the god of fertility and agriculture, but also the god of fresh water, and Kanaloa is the god of salt water. And they are in some conflict with each other, but they also are in harmony with each other. So fresh water and salt water are two of the realities in all of these islands. You obviously need fresh water in order to sustain life, but you need salt water in order to have fish and other forms of food that come out of the ocean. And also, Kanaloa salt water is the medium through which you navigate. So you need to protect both the saltwater regions and the freshwater regions. Then Kane is the creator deity, and this is the theological flip, because Kane is a minor deity in French Polynesia and becomes the major deity in Hawaii as the principal god. Then I also have not mentioned, of course, Pele. Pele is the goddess of the volcano, and Hawaii is really the only place in the Pacific now that has active volcanoes. And Pele is a very powerful goddess in Hawaii, but also has this interesting theological relationship with human beings, because Pele is both a creator, because volcanoes create soil and they create land, and also a destroyer, because volcanoes also are destructive. Did anybody have a chance to go to Kilauea on this trip? And did you see any evidence of people who were interested in Pele? Because there are still people who believe very fervently in Pele. By the way, I hope you didn't take any rocks from the volcano, because Pele will get you. I will tell you that every year, the the observatory on the Big Island on Hawaii receives boxes with people returning rocks that they took away, and they have signs like, "Unfortunately, my dog died, and I'm sure this is the reason." So Pele is also a reality. So, and in ancient times and today, like in the Mahahiki Festival, which has turned into a kind of a general kind of harvest festival and a festival during the winter months. In the past, these festivals and propitiation of the gods were also ways of people staying aware of the particular areas of nature for which they were to which they were attached and for which they were responsible. If you had a chance to go to the Bishop Museum in Honolulu and taken a look, it was up on the second floor, you'd see that there really was a celebration for practically every month of the year, every moon of the year, every phase of the moon. And there is a moon goddess, Hina, that is also there. But these nature festivals taking place on a regular basis, again, are a regular reminder of this human responsibility for what's going on. Now, this in traditional times, there was a form of land allocation in Hawaii. There's also a very similar one in Tahiti and in French Polynesia. This system of land allocation was the ahupua'a system. And this is a division of land for sustainable use. The Āina in Tahiti is pretty much the same. What took place in this traditional system is that the land was divided up like slices of pie. So that you had a slice of land that went all the way from the interior down to the coast. And so when you had some kind of relationship with the land had resources from every geographical location on the slope of the mountain, from the very highest slopes down to the sea, so that there was a balance between the resources that took place on any piece of land for which a person had control. And it was held largely communally. Now you can see the difference between this and a Western system where people plot things out in squares and acres and where land that is rocky or doesn't seem to be particularly productive is just simply ignored or discarded, or I don't know, you build a hotel on it or something. But the idea of balance between resources on a piece of land is, again, conceptually one of the most important aspects of traditional land holdings and land offerings. So this also meant that the highlands, where there was actual wood, turned out to be an area that was available to everybody for instance, canoe building or other things that you might need wood for. Wood was quite precious. And so the accessibility of these natural materials were always there in the traditional system. Now, what happened was I talked to you yesterday about Captain Cook and his followers who discovered sandalwood. And we don't think of, again, sandalwood as something cataclysmic, something that's transformational. But for for the Marquesas Islands and for Hawaii, it was indeed transformational because nobody knew that sandalwood could have such important trade value in China, in the China trade. And so the arrival of Western traders and the demand for sandalwood throughout the Pacific completely upset this traditional land system with its balanced resources. The alii, the tribal chiefs, were essentially given Western goods and were told that these Westerners had an interest in the sandalwood. And for the Hawaiians and for also the Marquesans, where another variety of sandalwood exists, the sandalwood as a resource didn't have any particular value except for certain ritual purposes. It was used as a medicine. It was not really seen as having particular value. And so the harvesting, the clear cutting of sandalwood for export to China didn't seem to be a problematic matter for the chiefs, and especially when they were getting trinkets and guns and nails and other metal objects, and acquiring wealth as a result of this trade with the West. So this resulted in deforestation, and it resulted in a disruption of traditional practices throughout the region. So the second important disruption from the traditional system was the development of plantation agriculture. The two main crops in Hawaii were sugarcane and pineapple. Now, you should all understand and know that neither sugarcane nor pineapple are indigenous to Hawaii. Anybody know where pineapple comes from? It comes from South America. In South America, that's right. And the variety of pineapple that eventually was developed comes from Guyana. It was something that was the French in French Guiana knew that they had a really, really, really good piece of fruit with the pineapple in South America, and they protected it as a cultivar. It was essentially smuggled to Hawaii when it was discovered, because that's the pineapple that is really good. It has the right size, so you can put it in a can. It is very sweet, easy to harvest, and it was the ultimate cultivar. Same thing with sugarcane. Sugarcane was imported to Hawaii and became a plantation crop. Now, in Hawaii and for sugarcane and pineapple, you couldn't actually have plantation agriculture without labor. And so and we had something that I didn't mention when we talked about Captain Cook. We had a very, very unfortunate experience throughout the entire region, in that the whalers and the merchants brought disease to the region. In a period in the 19th century, over a period of 40 or 50 years, nearly 400,000 Hawaiians died of measles. We had similar deaths throughout Polynesia, as they were not resistant to these diseases. So you can establish a plantation, a sugarcane plantation, you can establish a pineapple plantation, but you got to have laborers. And so the laborers came from China, Japan, and later the Philippines. Now this is very interesting, because the result has been in certainly in Hawaii, the result has been that Hawaii is now the most ethnically diverse state in the United States, with the majority of the population having Asian origins. And these are many people who've been in Hawaii for many generations. But one of the interesting aspects of this was that, unlike, for instance, Fiji, which also had plantation agriculture, the people who were brought in as laborers from China, Japan, and later the Philippines were actually wage laborers. They were not enslaved, as the British tended to do in Fiji and other parts of the Pacific. So they were frugal. It was expected that they would have a contract and would go back home after they were finished with their labor. But no, they saved their money. And when they had accumulated enough, they bought land, they bought shops, and they established themselves within the communities within Hawaii. And this created another kind of ethnic dynamic within Hawaii. But at the same time, when you have a plantation agriculture and that kind of economic situation going on, it means again that the traditional views of the human relationship to the land get distorted because you're talking about plots of land that get traded and that becomes real estate rather than communal land. And we're still actually fighting in many parts of the Pacific. We're still fighting the tension between private land ownership and communal land ownership and communal resources for the land. So, in all of these islands, we have a very interesting dynamic, which is that we have windward and leeward sides of any of the islands. If you take a look at Nukuhiva, where was our last port, the side of Nukuhiva that is away from the prevailing trade winds is absolutely a desert. Really no agriculture at all. The same is true for the Hawaiian Islands. And so what people did in order to be able to cultivate and to expand plantation agriculture in Hawaii anyway, was to punch tunnels through the mountains in order to take water from the rain side of the islands in order to irrigate the dry side of the islands. It completely changed the dynamic, the water table, and just about everything that was going on. It was very effective for economic benefit, very effective for the benefit of the plantations, but it had a tremendous effect also on the ecosystems within these islands. This was all done in the 19th century. This is not something that really has been going on today. So the expansion of plantations and industrial activities resulted in further degradation of the environment and a loss of, well, native habitats. If you clear land for agricultural purposes and for plantation purposes, then the natural habitats for the natural fauna and natural flora on the islands are also disturbed. And that is something that is very, very difficult to reclaim once the degradation has actually taken place. And there's nothing we also have to talk about the effects of World War II. World War II was fought in the Pacific. Practically every island community in the Pacific was affected by World War II, by military development and by the industrial development that took place throughout World War II. It was for short term, it was somewhat beneficial to the people who were living on these islands because it brought Western trade goods, and there's actually a very interesting study that's been done by anthropologists, and it's called the cargo cult. The cargo cult is a belief system that arose in the Solomon Islands, where smaller island communities noticed that there were airplanes landing from all over the place, and when the airplanes landed, you got all kinds of goodies, Western goods, canned goods, and all sorts of other things. So people on outlying islands started to build airstrips. And the airstrips, it was thought that if you built the airstrips, if you build it, they will come. And so the airstrips were built in the hopes that they would attract planes that would land and bring Western goods. This was, of course, a mistaken belief. Merely building an airstrip doesn't mean necessarily that the planes will come, although sometimes building an airstrip does mean that you end up getting at least tourists, and that certainly has happened. So the construction of military bases also was done without regard to conservation of areas, and naval bases in particular were quite destructive of the seabed and of the natural resources in lagoons and bays. It was a necessity, a military necessity during World War II, but this was before really anybody thought seriously about the effects of construction on ecology. And after World War II, we get another important point of degradation of the environment in terms of the tourist boom. There was a tremendous tourist boom throughout the Pacific region at the end of World War II, and the development of tourism had a dramatic effect on the infrastructure throughout the region. There was an increased strain on natural resources, and the coastal development also resulted in the degradation and really the extinction of some species. So, and in Hawaii in particular, and in French Polynesia, the development of infrastructure after these became established states was really quite dramatic. Urban expansion and highway construction took place everywhere. The effects on wetlands and forests was dramatic, and the problems of waste disposal became acute. What is now quite interesting, some of you may think, again, we're talking about Hawaii, some of you may think that Hawaii is primarily dependent economically on tourism, but actually tourism is only the second most important economic contributor to the economy. The first is real estate. And if you've tried to price real estate in Hawaii, you know that the prices just keep going up and up and up. Everybody wants to live there, but the price of land is really quite out of reach especially for native Hawaiians. The same is true in other island communities. If you're on a somewhat remote island community, perhaps you could still afford to purchase land, but real estate and real estate development has taken its toll in all of these areas. So In the 1970s, people started to realize that there was a severe problem with the degradation of the environment, and the degradation had taken place over really more than 100, 150, 200 years. It wasn't something that happened suddenly, but it happened in stages and with development of different kinds of economic activity that resulted in having a strong impact on the environment. George Helm was a Hawaiian activist who was responsible and who spearheaded one of the most important environmental groups in Hawaii, recognizing the need to protect the ecosystem. He was an environmental activist. He has since left us, but still a remarkable pioneer in trying to establish an ecological movement. So there has been, throughout the region, a very important movement, Mālama Āina movement, taking people back to their consciousness of nature. And Āina is a word that you see throughout Hawaii. It's on signs. It's everywhere. It's talked about. It is a regular vocabulary item in everyday conversation. So when people talk about, and in fact, it also is an identifier for people who actually live in Hawaii, who are native Hawaiians. They're the people of the Āina. They're the homeland people. And the conservation program for endangered plants has been one of the most important areas of conservation. There weren't many native plants in the region before human migration began, and identifying these native plants and preserving them has been one of the most important tasks in conservation, to try to restore the basic nature of the land and territory. So, for instance, not just the sandalwood trees, which are now being replanted, and the sandalwood forests are being restored throughout the areas where they had been native plants, but also the koa and the ohia trees that you find in Hawaii are being restored and reforested in the highland regions. The preservation of marine animals is one of the most important aspects of conservation. Endangered species, monk seals, green sea turtles, coral reefs, and also native birds. These four areas are the subjects of tremendous conservation efforts, and they've met with great success. The sea turtle is, you've been to a souvenir shop probably, so you know that there are sea turtles all over the place. They're more than just turtles. They are also spiritual animals. They bring good luck. They help people have a spiritual connection with the land. So these green sea turtles are really much well thought of. And the idea that these turtles, which are unique as a species actually, would ever go extinct because of a destruction of their environment is a kind of a culturally unthinkable thing. So this is one of the ways of preserving this material. In French Polynesia and in Hawaii, marine reserves have been established governmentally, and no fishing zones to be able to protect these materials. Conservation efforts to try to restore coral are found throughout the entire Pacific region. Coral is, as I'm sure you all know, very fragile. And I hope that you, when you were using sunscreen, you used sunscreen that didn't destroy the coral. We know more about that now. But the coral are very sensitive to chemical pollution. And so not polluting the water in a coral reef is one of the ways of making sure that the coral is preserved and healthy. And there are coral farms trying to repopulate these coral reef regions. So these conservation efforts are largely community-based. We find also throughout the region volunteer cleanups for beach cleanups. Now, if you're living on a small island, what do you do with the waste? You know, what do you do with the plastic bottles? What do you do with the kitchen waste and the garden waste? You're in a small community. There are no trash dumps that really can be used, or no land that can be used for that purpose, because the land that you're on is so limited in size. So the natural response is to just limit the waste to begin with, not habit. And so cleanups and volunteer efforts to clean up and delitter the beaches and delitter sensitive areas are, again, very widespread as community efforts. So your recycling programs are found everywhere. In fact, they are far more active in the Pacific region than they are in mainland United States or Canada. There's certainly parts of Europe where recycling is extremely conscious, but perhaps even as intensive as we find in the Pacific region. But laws to limit pollution in sensitive areas are very strict and have been enacted throughout the area. The plastic waste in oceans is a worldwide problem, but nowhere is it as acute as you find in the Pacific Islands. So bans on single-use plastic bags are a very important part of the conservation effort and the preservation of the environment. Community efforts to clean up these marine debris are also very important, and educational programs on ocean conservation continue throughout the region. In Hawaii in particular, the Hawaiian youth-led environmental organizations are extremely important. And here's a group of Hawaiian youth in their green outfits involved in a cleanup of waste materials and pollution, and developing a sensibility among young people also helps to develop a public sensibility about these questions. So Mālama Āina involves also the revival of traditional practices. And we have the benefit of being able to integrate modern science with these conservation efforts. And there are many, many projects throughout the Hawaiian Islands and also throughout French Polynesia, which I'm focusing on here, that allow for the successful conservation efforts to take place. Local initiatives to manage watersheds and forests have also grown up throughout the area. But let me tell you, they're fighting a continual battle with developers, with land developers. And so managing to somehow protect these conservation areas and keep land developers from essentially destroying the natural environment is a continual battle. Everybody wants economic development. There's no question that profits and benefits people. But the costs in terms of environmental degradation have to be balanced with the benefits of that economic development. And that is it's a political matter, a social matter, but it also requires a public sensibility in order to be able to have that happen. So the role of cultural practices is a fundamental feature of the education of youth in the entire Pacific region. Young people are acutely aware, or made acutely aware through their education of their responsibility to the land and their responsibility for making sure that there is preservation of the natural resources that take place. Hawaiian environmental law, the Environmental Law Handbook, this is hundreds of pages, by the way, is a bedrock of state legislation within Hawaii. And this is not just an ideological, the result of an ideological movement. You know, it's nice to preserve trees. No, this is a matter of survival. And I think that that people on all of these islands know that they are fighting a battle for survival of humans, and at the same time that they're trying to preserve the environment. So these laws that protect the environment and make sure that human beings also respect their responsibility for doing this preservation become one of the fundamental guiding principles in how individuals govern themselves within these regions. Sustainable tourism practices have now been instituted throughout the entire region, and I think if you all went on tours from Holland America, perhaps you were advised that sustainable tourism is the ideal. It's something that we want to make sure that people are able to enjoy the environment, but at the same time are not destructive of the environment. And ecotourism has now become one of the most important touristic industries throughout the entire region. And this is done in collaboration with the hospitality industry. So we have the enduring spirit of Mālama Āina with kinship, stewardship, the idea that the land is your mother, your father, and that you must protect it as you would protect your family, is a guiding ethic and a guiding principle for people throughout the region. And there is also hope for a sustainable future. As a footnote to this talk, I wanted to point out to you that renewable energy is also a necessity for the region. Resources in generating energy from fossil fuels and other things that need to be imported clearly is not sustainable for a long period. And the ideal, the Pacific Islands are one of the areas of the world where renewable energy has made the most dramatic inroads. And we expect in areas of Melanesia, in Samoa, in French Polynesia, and in Hawaii, the renewable energy is headed for becoming almost 100% of energy production. The ideal that people are aiming for is that by 2040, in some areas of this region, it will be 100% of it will meet 100% of their energy needs. In Hawaii, on the Big Island, geothermal energy from the volcanoes is one source. Obviously, wind is one source. Generation of waves of electricity from waves is another source. And finally, solar power. There's plenty of sun, and so so solar power is going to be probably the most important source of electricity and power generation in the future. And this is seen as an ultimate expression of Mālama, Āina, because what could be more natural than getting your energy directly from the sun? So I thank you all very much. I wanted to ask you, I not only have been a lecturer on Holland America, I've also been a passenger. I'm a 3-star mariner. That's not as good as a 4 or a 5-star mariner, but I am a 3-star mariner. So I also, when I am a passenger, I also get these feedback forms from Holland America. These lectures appear as like one question on like page 5 of the questionnaire. And I know some of the people who have been lecturing to you during this entire cruise before I got on. I know that they're really wonderful people. So when you're filling out your questionnaire, when you're providing feedback for Holland America, please do mention these enrichment lectures because it is important for Holland America to know that they are important to you, and that you found them interesting, and that you found them important as part of your experience on a cruise like this. So with that, I thank you so much for your attention and also for your attendance all this time that I've been giving these lectures. So, and enjoy your time back in port. Is anyone going on to Hawaii after this? Yeah, you are. You're staying on the boat. So good luck. Anyway, I'm getting off in San Diego and going back to San Jose. I think that we've had a wonderful time while we've been here, and I especially have enjoyed meeting all of you so much, and I appreciate your kind remarks that I've gotten here and there throughout the boat. Thanks again.